Good afternoon, it's Dave at All Things Important Reviews. Please smash the subscribe button and please smash that like button. I've recently reviewed the watch in my right, the Cronos L6005, which is obviously a homage to the Rolex Submariner. Not Rolex's latest model, which is a 41mm watch, but Rolex's 40mm that's been produced for 10 years with a ceramic bezel, I believe, from 2010 to 2020. In 2020, in September of that year, last year, they released a 41mm watch that is their current Submariner. That's Rolex I refer to. And that has 21mm lugs and slightly bigger size overall. They call it 41, but in reality when it's measured it's only 40.5. So in reality it's very similar to this. The main difference is the bigger clasp and the bigger bracelet, but I'll talk about that another time. Anyway, these are homages to the 2010 to 2020 ceramic watch that Rolex produce. They're not 41mm, they're 40mm. They're obviously fully stainless steel. Both have automatic movements, both have lume. The Cronos does have a fully lumed bezel on the model I ordered. I don't know if they all have that. And obviously the Pagani on the left, I thought it would be best to give this option as well as a comparison, because I've recently reviewed this watch and I've given it a very good review, and I've also compared it to the San Martin, which is also arguably number 2 or number 1 even for popularity in terms of these homages of the Rolex Submariner. But the Pagani is half the price, if not cheaper, than both the San Martin and the Cronos. And that's why, and because of how good this watch is overall, depending, obviously the QC issues can be there and all that kind of thing, but overall it's a fantastic option, and I thought it would be worth comparing them directly to see what I'm saying, because ultimately you are getting a lot of this watch in this with some minor differences. Whether it's worth the extra price is very subjective. I don't actually think this is worth twice this. I don't agree that it is, but that's up for debate. You do have a better movement in here. You can pick it with the PT-5000 or the ST1 something or other. As I've mentioned many times, I couldn't care less about these cheap automatic movements, because as far as I'm concerned, if the power reserve is only 40 to 50 hours, you know, and the accuracy is 10 to 15 seconds, if not more, per day losing, give or take, then as far as I'm concerned, all these automatics with cheap movements like that are in the same category. Come back to me when you get 70 to 80 hour power reserves and within 5 seconds a day accuracy, if not better. Now, that's not possible with this cheap technology that's put into automatics at the minute, as far as I'm aware. I'm talking about long-term using the watch. I'm not talking about the first few weeks. Eventually, they'll start losing seconds per day. So that's why the movements to me are not important on automatics. I would rather them be, in all honesty, a Mecha Quartz or a Quartz or something else. But I know that I'm an outlier in the community, and many people do like automatics, and I do like seeing the sweeping seconds hand, but I don't like the inaccuracy personally. I don't like it. So anyway, let's digress. So let's start by comparing the sizes, and this is actually where, believe it or not, you are going to see some of the most difference, because I've measured them both before the video, and this is strange because the Pagani have done different models, and if you get, well, different batches of the same model, I should say, or versions. And basically, this is a previous version. This is a 2020 version by Pagani of the PD-1661. And in that version, it has the Explorer on the dial, as in the Pagani design Explorer range, nothing to do with the Rolex Explorer. The new one does not have that Explorer on the dial, you see, the 2021 Model 1, that you can buy for the same price. That's still a fantastic watch. But, interestingly, this one is thinner. This one I've had this model in a few sizes. I've had this version in a few colours, I should say, sorry. And I've had it, I've just measured this now, and I'm not kidding you, I've just measured 11.9mm. Now, when I measured it a few months ago, I'm sure I measured 12mm. So let's call it 12mm thick, okay? Now, I've had it in the blue bezel at 12.4mm, and I've had it in the black dial at 12.3mm, okay? So I've had it very thin models, which I like. Now, so the thickness of this one that I've got is only 11.9mm or 12mm, call it. The lug to lug is 47. The end-link to end-link is 53. Now then, on the Cronos, I get the thickness to be 13mm, which is significantly thicker. I get the lug to lug to be 47.5 or 47.6. And I get an end-link to end-link, interestingly, to be about 52, 51 and a half. So the end-link to end-link on this Pagani is nearly, is about a mil and a bit bigger. But the lug to lug is slightly smaller, and the thickness is a full millimetre thinner. And that has an effect on the wrist. This watch I can wear all day, all long, no problem, no sweat, no uncomfortable, anything like that. Whereas this one does get sweatier and does get a little bit less comfortable long hours, like after 6 hours, that kind of thing. I'll show you on the wrist at the end, actually. So size, I prefer, with these units, I prefer the Pagani for size, personally, coming from a comfort perspective, because visually they obviously look identical in terms of the size, but it shows how the thickness can affect things. Now, if you buy a 2021 model of this watch, you're going to get, they've used a different case slightly, and it's a bit thicker at about 12.8, 12.6, 13mm thick, which has a small effect on the thick. But as far as I'm aware, the end links and the thingy are the same, and the lug to lug. So if you're lucky to get one of these older ones, you can get them very thin, and I like that. On the newer ones, I've had about 2 or 3. I've not had any thinner than, I think, 12.6, which is strange because on the GMTs, the version 2 GMT that Pagani are doing are only 12.5mm. Anyway, sizing, I prefer the Pagani. There's no question about that. And obviously then that therefore means the comfort is superior, and it is on the Pagani. Right, now then, let's talk about dials. Both have sapphire crystals and dials. So they both have sapphire crystals, but Pagani's, and they have been tested and verified off various people on the internet. I don't have the hardness checker to check it. They have been verified. I'm going to give the winner to Pagani because they've not made it flush on the Cronos. The Cronos is not flush with the bezel, and I don't like it. It sticks out too far, in my opinion. Versus the Pagani, it does stick out, but only a smidge. The Cronos is nearly a full 0.5 mil to a mil proud of the bezel. Right. Let's talk about bezels. Feels very crisp. Only minimal black play. Ceramic on the Cronos. That is even easier to move, but it's not as satisfying, and there's more back play. So I'm going to give the bezel winner to Pagani. But the bezel on the Cronos is actually fully loomed, so in that sense it is superior. The loom is superior, definitely, on the Cronos. Okay, let's talk about the actual dial itself and everything on it. Okay, so Pagani, pretty cluttered dial in a way. You've got a lot of writing, and it's bigger. The font size is bigger, at least it seems to be. or there's just more of it. The logo is bigger on the Pagani. Personally, I do prefer that personally, to have a bigger logo. I think the Cronos' logo is too small. Technically, the Pagani does not have a jet black piano dial. It is actually sunburst but it's only very slightly, which is good. Now, I do not like a black or grey sunburst dial generally. I don't like them. I prefer them just to be in solid colour. And this actually, because of how minimal they've done it on this unit, it's fine. The Cronos has a beautiful, deep, kind of tealy blue, solid coloured dial with a maxi hands. Personally, again, the Lume, the way they've applied the Lume on the indices, it looks more creamier on the Cronos. On the Pagani, it more matches the the markings on the bezel. I prefer the colour of the indices. I prefer them on Pagani, I do. So I'm going to give the winner on that to Pagani. Cyclopses, again, if you use them, the magnification is clearly superior on the Pagani. You can clearly see how the one there is bigger than the 12. But I'm not saying that's good or bad, but it is superior. Right. They both have a signed crown, which is good. They both have different movements. I'll talk about the movements later, but basically, the PT-5000 is more accurate than the NH35 or NH38, whatever you call it, what they put in the Pagani. I'm going to give the winner on the movement because it is superior. I'm going to give it to Cronos. Okay, case backs. Well, we'll do case backs and branding. Lovely exhibition window, fully branded. Information about the watch and all that. Logo, what's it called? You know, the model number, etc. Versus a completely plain back. For the enthusiasts who want it closer to Rolex, you could argue that this is closer. I do not like that. I think it's too plain. So personally, the clear winner for caseback and for branding in general is superior on the Pagani. It is superior because they've got branding on the caseback and they've got branding on the clasp. And everywhere is branded, which it should be, versus there's no branding on this clasp, which is just a crime. That is so pathetic that Cronos did not brand this. It is ridiculous. So again, it's not the end of the world, but I'm just saying how they could try and cut costs by not branding that is appalling. It should be branded. The clasp should be branded, definitely, and so should the caseback, in my opinion. So let's compare the bracelets. Right, they both have 3-link style bracelets. Okay, very similar to the real Rolex. Beautiful tapering from about 20mm down to 16. Both have very similar proportioned length sizes. Both are perfectly sized. There's no issue there. Both have the polished outers with the brushed inners. There's no centre polishing. You can actually get it on both models if you request it, but they both don't have it. The main difference is the clasp. The Pagani uses a pin system, which are an absolute nightmare to get out and put back in, but I've got used to it now. But they are very secure, whereas the Cronos, as I've shown you recently, uses a sliding quick adjust system similar to Rolex's Glide Lock, and they use ceramic bearings. Many people would say this is a superior system because it allows on-the-fly adjustment. However, if you are not bothered about that, you could argue that you get a more secure setting by using a pin system. I'm not saying that it has ever come apart on me using this watch, but in other poorer iterations of this style of clasp, they do come apart more easily. I'm not saying that this would happen with the Cronos. So, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of these on-the-fly adjustment clasps. I think they are massively overrated. I think only if you really are a diver and you literally would put them over a wetsuit, or if you're someone who wears watches very tight, do you actually need, and who has sensitive kind of skin that expands when they eat too much salt, or when it goes hot or whatever. Because I wear my watches loose, so to me I never ever would increase or loosen up the tightness of the watch. I just would never do that. And if I did, I'd just get a pin out and change it. So I don't have any requirement, because I'm not a diver, to do that. But so what I'm basically saying is, this clasp is very functional. It's very comfortable on the Pagani. It clicks nice. It's got a safety catch just like a Rolex. This is obviously similar to a clasp on the Rolex GMT Master. That's working very good. So I think it's overrated, in all honesty, to say that you need to have one of these on the fly quick adjust things, but I suppose they are nice to have. Also, I would say that they're not as, you think you're getting like, loads of different increments there. It's not as incremental as you actually think. It's probably to 2mm settings that you can actually click it in at. See there, it's struggling to go in there. But when you put it in, it is completely secure, and they've used a ceramic pin that it kind of moves along, which is good. So it's an excellent clasp off, and I would say the materials and the joints are probably a little bit better on the Cronos than the Pagani, but it's not as noticeable as you would think. Having said that, I have had a Pagani just go loose on me, and it was because of that joint there. That joint in there, that little pin there came out. I don't know if you can see it. There's a pin inside there, it just came out. So again, probably slightly better build quality on the Cronos, but you should get that because you're paying over twice the price. So overall, there's not as much in it as people tell you. However, let's talk about now the Lume, and let's talk about, I can't show you the Lume now, but the Lume is definitely better on the Cronos. The Lume on the San Martin, I think, is the best, but the Cronos has decent Lume. It's better. The Lume on the Pagani is quite poor, in all honesty, and this isn't lumed, only the pip. The things that let down the Cronos are that the comfort is not as good as the Pagani. The branding is not as good as the Pagani on the back of the case, and the cost. The cost is a lot more expensive. This is like 3 times the price of this, and it's definitely, in my honest opinion, not worth 3 times. However, the Cronos does have 200 meter water resist, whereas the Pagani only has 100. So again, it's whether you're bothered about those things. Colour combinations, they both have a similar colour combination. My recommendation to you would be to get the grenade dial, the textured dial on the Cronos. I think it's beautiful. Or to get it in this style. I don't personally like the blue, as I've mentioned before. But the Pagani, is a great one. If you don't want to spend 250 quid, over 200 quid on it, the Pagani, you're getting, I would say, 85% of the watch, if not more, really. Again, if you're bothered about the clasp, some people don't like these clasps and they prefer the sliding one. Then if that's a big issue to you, then obviously get the Cronos. But to be fair, you can't go wrong with either for the price. Would I feel comfortable diving with the Pagani? Probably, because you know, it's still got the 100-meter water resist. I've seen people dive with a 30-meter Casio. Now, obviously, Casio's a much more established company than these Homage watches, but again, I think they'll be fine. If you watch I Like Watches, he put it in his tester thing, and the Pagani came through just fine on the water resistance. So again, I think water resistance is massively overstated, really, for what they are. I mean, they're massively overplayed as a requirement for people who only go swimming on holiday. I mean, if you're a real true diver, are you really going to buy a Homage watch? You're not going to do it, are you? You're going to buy a proper, well, you're going to have a dive computer, but you're going to buy a proper Seiko or Citizen or Hamilton or whatever. You're going to buy a proper dive watch that's made for diving. You're not going to buy a Homage and go and say, oh, I need to go diving professionally with it. It's just not going to happen, is it? Let's be honest. Because you wouldn't truly trust Chinese manufacturers that are just trying to make a quick buck. Well, they're just trying to make people feel like they're wearing, you know, a luxury brand for a fraction of the price, and they do that very well. But I wouldn't trust all the specs in a million years. What the heck? You know, I'd treat it with a pinch of salt, and I do with these kind of water resists. So anyway, having said all that, they're both great watches. You could argue that the Cronos is slightly better because the water resistance, the lume, the movement is better, but the price is 3 times the price. Is it worth that? I don't believe it is, but that's up for you to decide. I hope you've enjoyed my comparison. I thought I would put these out there because of the, you know, not a lot of people are comparing this model to the Cronos, but it is worth it because of how good this watch is. Okay, thanks a lot for checking my reviews. I'll have loads more coming up for you. Thank you. Cheers. Have a great day.